Angel Heart Radio programs should not be used to replace your legal or medical advice, nor your own sound judgment. Welcome to Angel Heart Radio, where we inspire you to remember your magnificence. Join the conversation on our live streams. Head on over to Angel Heart Radio on Facebook. And there's even more for you on angellight777.com. Welcome everyone to Angel Heart Radio. It feels like ages since I've been with you, and what a beautiful way to return with my awesome guest today, Edgar Pablos. Welcome, Edgar.
Thank you so much, Anaya. Great to be here.
Today we're going to talk about the movie Angel Lady. Facebook, please, everyone, go check it out, Angel Lady movie. We're going to talk about what Edgar's passion, his purpose as the director of this movie is, and what his core beliefs are about why this is an important story to tell right now. Edgar, you grew up in El Paso.
Yes.
You currently live in LA. So you've got a broad range of experience between where you grew up, where you are now, and what's brought you to this point in time to be feeling so passionate about this wonderful project.
Yes. And it all stems from my relationship with the producers, Sherry Myers and Dan Moore. They're dear friends of mine who we actually met in El Paso.
Nice.
It's really funny. I've always known I wanted to be in the film industry. And one of my favorite filmmakers is Walter Hill. And I heard that Walter Hill was coming to my hometown to make a movie, and I tried so hard to get on that set. And I tried everything. And, not to go into more details, but I snuck onto the set and befriended Dan Moore, who was the costume designer of the film. And Dan had just gotten married to Sherry and loved that I was a fan of Walter Hill. We struck up a conversation, and he was the nicest man. And appreciated that I was a fan of this director because Dan had worked with this director for many years. And that friendship is now over 25 years old. And they've been mentors to me. They've been friends to me. And when they told me about this project, and they asked me to direct it, I came on board immediately. I thought this was a great idea of forgiveness. That's the theme of knowing when to ask for help and then for forgiveness. And so those are themes that I hold dearly because I don't know about you, but it's really hard for me to ask for help.
It's the same. It is absolutely the same, Edgar. And just touching on Sherry and Dan for a moment, I've never met Dan, but I just have this heart connection with him. And of course, Sherry is a magnificent human being. And we spoke with Sherry, not last week, but the week before. So that's on the podcast on Angel Heart Radio, and it's also on our Facebook page. And I listened to the podcast yesterday, Edgar. It was so inspiring. I loved every minute. She's so wonderful. So you guys as a team, plus other team members who we will talk about as well, I just feel like this is kind of like a golden mix,
Mm-hmm. It is. We have a great team with us. It all started in El Paso, as a matter of fact, because our other producer, Jeffrey Wetzel, who is a first assistant director and he's done many, many big films. He's a legend in the industry as an AD. He was the first assistant director on this movie that Walter Hill directed in El Paso called Last Man Standing, that starred Bruce Willis. The big action movie set in the 1930s. So it was like this gangster Western, which was a remake of the Akira Kurosawa film Yojimbo, the samurai film. And it was Dan Moore, after I got to know him, who hired me as a PA on that movie. He asked me to show Sherry around El Paso. After I snuck onto the set, I had my laser discs of all of Walter's movies, and he loved that I was a fan, so that I asked if Walter could sign my laser discs. And Dan said, sure. And then Dan asked me if, since I was from El Paso, that he and Sherry had actually written another script that had taken place in El Paso, and if I wouldn't mind showing Sherry around El Paso. So I took Sherry around all day. It was a wonderful way to get to know her and to hear the kinds of stories that she likes, that she gravitated towards, and we became instant friends. And as a way to thank me, Dan hired me the next day to be a set PA for his department, and that was the first movie I ever worked on in Hollywood, in my hometown. And from there, he got me an interview on the second film with this AD, Jeffrey Wetzel, and we've been a team ever since. I've worked on a few movies with JP as his set PA with the assistant director department, and he's been another mentor to me. Both he and Dan produced my short film, a Western that we did called Agua Dulce, also a spiritual film, supernatural Western.
Oh, this is awesome. I'm hearing so much as you speak. I'm hearing so much about what the heart and soul of this movie is about: coming together, forming community, supporting each other, lifting each other up, while allowing each other to be who we actually are, right? Without
Absolutely.
those masks that we often feel we need in society. So, Edgar, as I'm hearing you speak about this part of your journey, it's also revealing to me that you have a beautiful heart. You know, that's quite obvious, even just from the 2-minute clip I watched where you spoke about, you know, what attracted you to this project in the first place. And isn't that so wonderful? Because already we're seeing that people are drawn to each other very naturally, as you were with Sherry and Dan, how the project came about, how, you know, this has been sitting there for 30 years waiting.
Yes. Yes.
And Sherry and I spoke about that, how wonderful that to some it might have seemed like nothing was happening. And yet, when you understand the deeper meaning, you can see, can't you? It was being nurtured the whole time. Otherwise, the idea would have just gone and it would never have gotten this far.
It's true. A wise person, a friend of mine, said this to me a long time ago that has kept me going all this time, is that he said, time is not your friend, but timing is. And we should trust the timing of things. And that's kept me going when I feel frustrated that projects wait, gestate for so long that it feels like that it'll never happen. And Dan and Sherry have been shepherding this project for such a long time with different directors before me too. It just, the right team hadn't come along yet. And and the timing was right for us. Yep.
Yet. That's the key, isn't it? The yet. We've got Sherry with us. If you're watching anywhere else, guys, head on over to the Angel Heart Radio Facebook page and you can add your comments on the live stream and we can feed those over to Edgar. If you've got questions about the movie or about his career or anything else, please ask. Elaine is with us. Elaine's just like, we adore Elaine. She's with us so often.
Hello, Elaine.
And Sherry's there. Hi, Sherry.
Sherry, yeah.
Yeah. So Edgar, hi, Edgar from Sherry and Dan. I love being able to check out the comments like this.
Yeah.
So Edgar, before we get into who Ella is, I want to just ask you, because part of the passion that you've got for this movie is the fact that Ella is a single parent. She's a single mum. What really attracted you about that? What does that mean for you as a person?
Well, two things. When I was working as an assistant to this director, his name is Mike Figgis. He was a mentor of mine. He's the director of the film Leaving Las Vegas that Nicolas Cage won the Oscar for. He has a producing partner named Annie Stewart. And Annie Stewart, I worked closely with her, and she was a single parent. And watching her raise her son and produce a movie at the same time. And with her, I watched her produce 3 movies and raise her beautiful little boy, Milo. And that really, I admired her so much for doing that, to be able to still produce this film for Mike and yet look after her little boy. And it was a miracle. It really was. And I admired her very much for that. And also, coming across from the Latino community, you do see a lot of, broken homes, single parents, friends. But for me, it was in eighth grade, I experienced it a little bit when my father went back to school. Yeah, both my parents are actual dentists in Juarez, and my dad went back to school to get his orthodontics license, and he was gone for a year. And that year, my mom was by herself with us and was taking care of the business plus us, and I felt that absence. So I can't, and that was only for a year. I can't
Mhm.
imagine
Yeah.
what others go through that, and it was tough. And it was my eighth grade year, and that was probably the worst year that I had in school. And I know it had a lot to do with missing my father.
Yeah.
You know,
Absolutely. And that, it's such a big job for a single parent because you're trying to be all things all the time, and I was a single parent for many years, twice.
Mhm.
And I found that very challenging. So for Ella, she's really been in a very tough situation, Ella being the main character, and Danny, her son, who is 13 in the movie. So Ella's really struggled, hasn't she? Because not only is she on her own, but she's really suffering in many, many ways. Tell us a little bit about Ella and how we can understand who she is and why she's so vital to this movie.
well, she is our gateway into this story of forgiveness. We Ella's had a checkered past. She's in trouble with the law, and she's trying to make up those that time lost to her son at all costs. And so she's taken harbor in this border community. We set it in my hometown of El Paso, Texas. Um, and right now, with the divided country that we have right now in the United States, with factions and left and right, um, when you see a community come together, regardless of that, I always find that just uplifting and inspiring. And we wanted to set someone from that world, that working class um American uh, female perspective, and put her into this Mexican American community. Uh, you know, Ella is from the South. There's been strained relationships with minorities in the South. So I thought this was a great way to put these communities together and see what happens. And and Sherry really, I mean, to her credit, wrote this amazing female character and gave her this life. I mean, there was this one discussion I remember having her. We were talking about Danny and thinking, is Danny's kind of a jerk at this time? And she just laughed. And said, you've never had parents.
A teenage boy.
You've never had a son. You never had a teenage child. And so she really brought her experience as a mother to this. And I know that raising a child is hard, let alone many. And I know my mom. There's 5 kids in my family that she raised, while also being a professional. It was difficult, and so I admire that. And Ella, being working class, having a checkered past, not realizing her full potential, and being put in this really endearing community that embraces her, but it also embraces her lack of faith, because she is a non-believer. She doesn't know how to ask for help. She's really stuck, and she's going to go back to her old ways that got her into trouble in the first place in order to help her son. And that gets her into trouble in our film. And so it really is the Mexican American community to help her, guide her, and opening her eyes to the possibilities of what else is out there, and to forgive yourself, and knowing when to ask for help.
And I guess too, for Ella, she's been in a very abusive relationship with Billy, who wants to keep her feeling very small so that he has control over her. So here she is, she's with these strangers. She's finally broken away from Billy. She's finally found that courage, and she flees with Danny. And so I guess part of her journey now, Edgar, isn't it, is how is she going to then learn how to trust these people, right? Because trust has been in very short supply, and reasons for trust
That's right.
have been in very short supply for this young woman. She's had 2 years in prison. So she's got to be feeling pretty battered, not only by her relationship, but her prison experience. And obviously, she's got to have had some pretty, a pretty tough growing up time as well. So I think this also begins to reflect, doesn't it? The journey of hope that we all, in one way or another, need to go on.
Yes, it is a journey of hope, but it's also, like you said, growing up in such a tough environment and having that be your experience. You have self-doubts, low self-esteem, and you connect with anyone who gives you a little bit of attention. And Ella was attracted to the bad boys in many ways. And I empathize with that. I really do. It's just, yeah, empathize with the choices that we make in order to feel secure, to feel loved. Yeah. And sometimes those choices are not good ones. We don't know it until it's too late.
That's true. And then that makes it more difficult, doesn't it? Because suddenly we're not only faced with the consequences of our choices, but we've got to somehow, because I've been in this situation myself, where I've made some abysmal choices as a parent. And then my journey, and this is maybe one of the reasons I really connect with Ella so deeply, was how do I then accept that, learn to make some sort of peace with it, and not use it as a yardstick to measure my own shortcomings.
And also to keep punishing yourself
for
those shortcomings, and for the, in Ella's case, the rotten things that she did in her past, cheating, fraud, all those things that she felt that she had to do back when. And we also empathize what a single parent would do to protect their child, to move them forward in this world, and keep them safe at all costs.
Yeah. And that's a big job all on its own. Okay. So let's touch on Danny for a second.
Sure.
He's a teenage boy. He's going to have issues, right? That is part of the territory, regardless of what sort of a parent you've been. So what can you tell us about Danny that might open his character up a little bit for us?
Danny's really interesting because he's not your ordinary teenager. He's really into architecture. He follows one particular Latin American architecture, which is another reason why I like the script so much. He follows this architect and his studies, and he is a nerd. He really is a geek, and it reminded me a lot about myself growing up, because I grew up in Texas, where everything was about football. It was about sports. It was about cowboys. It was all of that, and I was into cinema. And there was very few people I could talk to about my favorite directors, my favorite writers, and I would follow them, and you feel kind of like an outsider for having this kind of taste, loves and passions, and you can't really, talk about films at that age without someone making fun of you or, pounding you.
Absolutely.
And Danny is the same way. He can't talk about architecture or renewable energy and everything that he's into, off-grid communities that he wants to make for his mom, without him being ridiculed. And that's exactly what happens. And he's far too smart for his age. He really is the adult in this family between Ella and himself. He really is the person that wants to take charge and be, an influence on his mom. But, his mom keeps getting into trouble with the choices that she makes, all, of course, for behalf of her son, all for Danny.
Yeah.
And that gets her in trouble.
So, okay, so she's nabbed Danny, who's probably not too keen on maybe the next lot of choices his mother's about to make for him.
Yes.
But he's got to go with her. He can't stay with Billy, right? This is a bad situation. Ella's really been beaten up. We won't go into detail about that, but she's been beaten up. And she knows, I have got to get my kid. I have got to get us out of here. How does she find herself in this border town? How does she get there? Like, what makes her choose to go there?
Well, that's all backstory, really. And the idea was that she was running for many years, trying to escape Billy, and she finds refuge in this community. It's where the car might have run out of gas. It was one of those things that let's get as far away from this guy as possible. And they land just outside of El Paso, Texas, on this border community where literally there is a border wall dividing these two cities that are sister cities. I mean, growing up in that environment, Ciudad Juarez in Mexico and El Paso, Texas, it was one city for many years until the border came. The Mexican-American War happened, and Mexico lost that part of the land to the United States. So this big city, the sister city, was split in half. So you have
you were born in El Paso yourself, weren't you?
Yes, I was. I was born and raised in El Paso.
Got all these heart connections going on. It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
So okay, so here she is. So she has to live somewhere. So she lives in a trailer, and inside that trailer is something that is so pivotal that she could never know beforehand.
Yes.
The journey this old TV that's in the trailer is about to take her on, Edgar.
That's the catalyst, really. I mean, first, the incident that sets her off is that Danny's accepted into this architecture school in Chicago for a summer program that will guarantee him college admittance down the line. So at all costs, she must find the money so that he can attend this class. Meanwhile, she is working as a waitress in a Mexican-American restaurant, making minimum wage, living off tips, and she finds herself, how am I going to find the money for this? On top of that, her son Danny turns the TV on one day. It's an old TV because obviously they can't afford a new one. And the TV kind of explodes, and there's this glitch on the TV that's humming this signal, that is radiating this signal that she doesn't know what it is, but the Mexican-American community around her see this signal and they think, oh my God, this is an angel. This is angel energy, and an angel is living in your TV. Of course, Ella, being the skeptic, says it's a broken TV. This is nonsense.
Wake up, people.
It's nonsense, but because she likes these, elderly ladies telling her, yes, that is an angel on your TV, she allows them to sit and stare at the TV. And pretty soon miracles start to happen. People can start to walk, and soon word spreads that this TV has healing energy, and it spreads throughout the community. And pretty soon her little trailer is overwhelmed with believers. And she can't believe it herself. She refuses to believe it, but she plays the part because now she can charge admittance to the TV or donations, as she calls it, so that she can raise the money for her son.
And it's exciting, isn't it? Because I bet people watching now and later and listening on the podcast, I bet you've had moments like this, maybe not with the TV with the glitch in it, but you've had moments that seem so ordinary, but then later when you look back and reflect, you realize that was a massive doorway and everything was about to change.
Absolutely. And I'll go back to my meeting Dan and Sherry for the first time. The story I forgot to tell you, that I was living in Los Angeles, had graduated from film school, and I got my first job working as assistant to two producers. And I lasted about 5 months before they fired me. Yeah, it was humiliating. And I had just rented a condo. I was doing well. I was on my own. And now I lost my job. And I didn't know what to do. I called my sister and I begged her not to tell my parents. But of course, she told my dad, and my dad called me and he said, "You know what? You've been in school for 4 years. You graduated on a Friday. You started this job on a Monday, and you really didn't have any time to rest. You wanted to write. Why don't you come home for a year, relax, rest? Don't worry about anything. Will and heal." And that was the greatest thing that he did for me. That I was able to leave Hollywood, come back to my hometown, and rest and heal. And I kid you not, that 3 months later, I hear that my favorite filmmaker, Walter Hill, is coming to town to shoot a movie in El Paso. And the costume designer of that film, Dan Moore, who had just gotten married to Sherry.
This is so cool. I'm
Yeah.
just loving this so much. And it's so exciting because, again, we see that while it might appear that we're very different to others, our stories, at the basis of our stories, of our lives and experiences, there are similar themes and patterns running through for all of us. They might look different and take on different forms, but one of the main themes I'm hearing about now, you're talking about it, some people might call it coincidence.
Right.
It's the synchronicity, and the kindness that drives the synchronicity, like, come home, that the compassion, the love. And this is so exciting, Edgar, because this energy carries with it so many opportunities, and opportunities that we don't know exist until they start to occur.
One of the books I read in college for the first time was The Alchemist. I don't know if you're familiar with that
Oh,
book.
yeah.
Paulo Coelho's book. And that line that says that if you have a dream deep in your soul, the universe will conspire to help you achieve it. And I never saw it work until, I was there, fired, going back to El Paso, getting on that set, because I had to sneak onto that set. I really tried hard to get on as best I could, but I snuck onto that set. And how I got on that set was that the local university was, the theater arts department was leading a tour. The costume designer was leading a tour for these theater arts students, and I was able to sneak in and pretend to be a theater arts student, and that's how I met Dan.
Wow.
You know,
This is very cool, because and then I can see that there's this similarity with Ella. She's pretending to be this angel lady, right?
correct.
Like you were pretending to be the student. So this wonderful magical connection you have to these, because it's like, I am so invested in these characters now that to me, they're not sort of people on the page anymore. I want to know. I want to connect. I want to see expressions on their faces. I want to experience, the burgeoning hope. All of this is going to be so beautiful in the movie. And as we know, there's a team that puts these things together, right? We've got an unseen team and we've got an earthly team of helpers. What can you tell us about the team that you've been so blessed to work with and are working with?
Well, as I mentioned, Dan Moore, costume designer, producer. He also produced my short film. And then Sherry, writer, producer. And then Jeffrey Wetzel, who was that first AD who's also on that film that I met on in El Paso, and who would later hire me on my second film when I moved back to Los Angeles. And Jeffrey's experience as an AD is going to come very much, handy when we start actually making the film. And of course, we have a group of of friends and family that are supporters that that will help us get through the finish line. And people like you and your listeners as well. It takes a village. It really does. And we the whole point of this film is we state that angels are real and they walk among us. And I believe that. They may not be heavenly creatures, but yet they're of this earth, but have that angel energy that they want to help, that they want to communicate, that they are here to connect those coincidences to our lives that you can't explain.
Yep.
those little miracles that happen that you can't explain otherwise. Like, how did this happen?
Absolutely.
And that's what it is. And also going back to what you said about pretending, we put on these masks every day and pretend to be something we're not, or afraid to reveal our true selves. And I'm fascinated with those characters, that put on a brave face, or put on something else so that they feel like they can be accepted and to belong. And that's the yearning, that yearning to belong. And Ella definitely, and so does her son. They have that yearning to belong.
Yeah. And don't we all? Don't we all have that yearning in one way or another? And that yearning so often translates to, I'm not good enough, I'm unacceptable, I'm broken, I'm unworthy. And this is one of the things I love so much about Ella, because you can completely understand how she feels that way. And yet, magic exists in every moment. Call it what you will.
Right.
And
those magic moments exist in our team as well. Of the people that I've met on this journey, it's beginning with Dan and Sherry, and it just branched out of those people that have helped me in this industry get the jobs that I've gotten, the education that I've received, the mentorship that I've received. It all stems from these angelic beings, as I call them, because they have been my guides through the 20 plus years that, after I graduated from film school.
Yeah. Yep. I'm just sending a couple of messages because we're receiving some feedback as we go along.
Okay.
And Elaine says she's loving this talk, which is fab. I've written in the comments there that, thank you everyone for being a part of this village. This village for this movie, this village for this message, the village that's going to support getting this out to the world. So Belinda's sending love. So one of the most important things you can do, guys, is head on over to Angel Lady Movie on Facebook, like the page, follow the page. It may seem like, pretty insignificant, but it actually adds up, and it does support this movie in ways that, you might not even recognize. And we need stories like that. We need stories, movies, film that have heart and soul, hope, redemption in a way that we've not really experienced before. This is part of, as Sherry said, it's more than a movie, it's a movement. It's a movement that we're a part of. We need to bring it in, breathe life into it, inject our love into it and our support, and a simple like and a follow from you will make a huge difference, because not only does it, yes, I can write that name down for you, Belinda. Well done, gorgeous. And thank you for asking. Not only does it make a difference in that way, there's another way you can also help make a difference. This movie was originally called The Glitch, right? Right. So now being Angel Lady, new page, all those other people that like the Glitch page, all over there, nothing's happening. Right? Guys, get yourself over. Like and follow Angel Lady Movie on Facebook. It's, get the village thriving.
That's right.
And Sherry says, thank you all for liking and following our page. Me too. Okay, Edgar, that Tony Robbins quote. Oh, I love that quote.
Yes. Right. Yes. Thank you. Sorry, my head went blank. That Tony Robbins. Yes. It was. I was taking his course, and what was fascinating is the discussion of trust and how that comes about. And he said something really interesting, that most people, you speak to them, they're not going to trust you, and it's hard to gain trust. But he did say that the way to gain that trust is that we as people trust anything that touches, moves, or inspires us. And those three things, and we are more susceptible to trusting those things that move our hearts, that inspire us, and move our souls. And it's true. You know, you think about all those movies, those stories that moved you, the people that have touched your heart. You trust them.
Yep.
And that's how you gain that trust. And you go back to your heart and soul. In Mexico, there is a saying called cariño, which is tenderness. And in Texas, tenderness is taboo. It's one of those things because in Texas, you feel like you have to be a man, that you cannot show feelings, that you cannot show your tender side. But I was blessed to have a father that was very tender to, his three sons, his two daughters, that we were embraced by that, and we all felt that love. So I never felt the need to be overtly macho, even though my culture seems to, breathe it, and also in Texas for that matter. But and because I had sisters and saw them, I felt that I had permission to be that, and it stayed with me, and that's what this world needs right now: a little tenderness when we are trying to heal, and God knows we need it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that, because tenderness can take so many forms. It can be an act of great kindness, but it can also be a look,
Yeah,
a smile,
yeah,
right?
absolutely.
And we all have that capacity somewhere inside us.
Yeah, right.
And this is why I think it's very important that we highlight this. And this is what Angel Heart Radio really is all about.
Mhm.
How can we support you to remember your own magnificence? And this is the journey that Ella is on, right?
That's right. And the importance of asking for help. I didn't realize that I had the trouble of asking for help until I was watching this movie. I don't know if you remember the film 127 Hours.
No.
It was James Franco. It's this true story of that poor young man that was out hiking one day, and the boulder fell on his arm and he was stuck
Oh my God.
and he couldn't move. And so he literally had to cut off his arm to survive.
That's why I
But
didn't see it, because I
yeah,
couldn't cope with
it's
that.
a brutal film, but the film's message was that, I mean, by the time you're experiencing what he went through, after he does the deed and he literally cut off his hands, he is looking for help, and he can't get the words out. He can't get the word help out even at that state until he finally screams it and people hear him. I just broke down and wept from that, and I realized, oh my God, I have trouble asking for help. And it goes back to that thing of like, are we worthy enough? Do I deserve that help? And it really hit home for me.
Brilliant.
And Ella is that, because of her
Yes.
checkered past, she's not going to ask for help, even though these ladies are telling her, these Mexican American ladies in this community, even they're telling you have the healing energy coming from your TV. All you have to do is ask for help. What do you want? She won't believe it. She can't.
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
can't embrace
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. And see, that's the thing too, because when we begin to open, well, in my experience anyway, as I began to open to hope, Edgar,
Mm-hmm.
a couple of things happened for me. The terror increased.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
I became so afraid of the hope. It felt much safer not to have any.
Mm-hmm.
But this is where then the courage comes in. And for me, as many of you know, the angels have been so incredibly supportive and instrumental in my own journey of healing and hope, and now flourishing. Having that experience helps me to understand why it feels so risky to hope.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the thing, isn't it? If we don't do it, will never experience it.
Right. It's the
So there's the journey of courage, isn't it? It's that great, it's, getting all your courage together, like this bloke having to, do his arm. It's like, oh my God.
Courage. It really is. It comes down to courage.
Yeah,
and
it does.
And it's why I think I love Westerns so much, because it is. They're all odes to courage and what we do to survive, to go on, to get through that door, get through that wall.
I used to love Westerns when I was a kid, and I always wanted to change my name to Miss Kitty.
Nice.
It's just, movies are so awesome, Edgar. I adore movies. I adore really good stories. They have that capacity to absolutely transport me and connect me with the characters, the story, the backstory. I care about them. And this is what's happening with this movie, Angel Lady. I care about Ella. I care about Danny. And even though Billy is an absolute bully, I care about him as well. I'm always hoping that Billy is going to somehow find the courage to change the way he expresses himself in the world. But I'm not attached to Billy, but I'm very attached to the others and the characters that I haven't met yet. So I forget, what's that lady's, the woman's name? The medicine, is she like a medicine woman?
Yeah, Doña Maria.
Yes. Tell us about her.
Doña Maria, that comes really from my love of the indigenous culture in Mexico. My great grandmother was a curandera, and she was a medicine woman, and I didn't know her, but my mom would tell stories about her. And I just, knowing where you come from and your past and your history, we forget that that's treasure. I mean, like going back to The Alchemist, that's exactly what it is, that you don't know where the treasure is, and where you'll find it is your home. It's been under your feet the whole time.
The whole time.
And it's who you are and where you come from. And once you embrace that, you'll find the riches that you thought eluded you for many years. And that's exactly what it was for when I started studying my culture and my background, where I come from, and the miracles that had to happen for my grandparents to meet, for my parents to meet, for life to be produced. It's just incredible just to think about it. As a matter of fact, the Western that I was telling you about, the short, it really is about everything that has to happen for two people to come together to create a life, and what that life does, and the lineage that creates. And that's heritage. That's the stuff that fascinates me.
Oh, I'm the same. I'm the exact same. In fact, I heard Mark Dooley talk about, like making an apple pie from scratch. You think it means that you got to go and get organic apples and, organic ingredients. But really, when you think about it, first of all, to create an apple pie from scratch, you've got to have a planet that supports the exact right combination of water, of sun, of environment, of, everything for the tree to grow, for the seed to be able to be produced. And that's what I'm hearing you say. Yeah, it goes far beyond the obvious, far beyond the surface story.
Yeah. And that's what I'm fascinated with. It's what's beneath the surface, right? All the roots that happen down here in order for there to be life. And
exactly.
I'm interested in those roots,
That's what I love too. Oh,
yeah.
I just get so charged up about that. It's such an exciting journey, isn't it? Because every single discovery leads you to another one.
That's right. Yep. And those are the coincidences that we're talking about, that because you make this one choice for whatever reason, it leads to this, and you don't know where that's going to lead to. I mean, there was another book that my father gave me, was this philosopher Osho, who talked about choices, right? And he talked about, there's the known and the unknown. And most people will choose what they know 99% of the time, that's a safe choice. Let's move there. But he says that the unknown, I mean, what is the ultimate unknown in the universe is, he describes as what we call God, the universe, however you want to describe the divine. And that is the unknown. And think about it. We never choose the unknown because of that. We're always choosing the known. But if there comes a point in that crossroad that you know which way one goes, choose the unknown path, because that's, you're choosing the divine every
Yeah,
time.
exactly. And your heart will tell you it's
Yeah,
right. Your
right.
head may say, are you nuts? Go
Yeah,
the other way. This is
right.
just going to be, but your heart somehow knows, Edgar. It's like this incredible radar that's always got the divine. No, the blip, you see the blip, blip,
Yep.
blip. You
Mhm.
know, it's always connected. It's always supporting us. And Carol Ann is in the comments as well. And she's saying, I love your comments on asking for help, Edgar. It's something we all experience at various times in our lives. And that then again, it is exactly what you're talking about. It's all of us.
Mhm.
We might put up walls. We might speak different languages. We might have different customs. But at the end of the day, that even matters, right?
I'm glad you brought up customs, because that's another thing that I've realized that people forget, that logic is 100% cultural. And
Mm-hmm.
what's logical to one culture is illogical to another. And that's where we have to find those common grounds and not just assume because one culture does things one way while another does it another way. And that's where those differences come together. And then we realize that if we really take a step back and look, okay, let's look at their point of view for a second. How are they doing this? Then you
Yeah,
realize that, through their point of view, it is logical. And,
absolutely.
and that's how we find a common ground. And we realize, I mean, going back to movies, why I love movies so much, because they unite us. They really do. They touch us, they inspire us, they move us, but yet they unite us. And I do believe that cinema has the power of healing in
I
many
do too.
ways,
Yeah.
and that's what I love about movies and why I
Oh,
keep
I'm
going
the
back.
same. I am absolutely the same. And, as you were speaking there about, about customs, it really brought to mind so clearly when I was hosting international students who were here to learn English as a second language.
Mhm.
It was just the most extraordinary 4 years. Like, oh my God, I'm so grateful. It was so beautiful. And I remember a Japanese girl came and she had no English. So I had to ask her, do you eat eggs? Right? Not everybody can eat eggs. Some people are allergic to them. So how do I ask this very important question? I thought, oh yeah, that's right. It's going to be really easy. So I just went, you.
Yeah,
And she laughed and laughed and laughed, and I laughed and laughed and laughed. And right in that moment, there was no barrier at
right,
all.
right.
Language was completely irrelevant. And we worked out how to communicate,
Mhm.
as I did with all of my gorgeous students. And I had 54 students come
Yeah.
through my home in that 4-year period. And it was a golden time in life.
Well,
And they taught me, every one of them,
you brought
that
you
the
bring up a
only barriers that exist are the ones that we think are there.
That's right. I mean, you bring up a good point about visual communication, right? And that's what cinema is. I mean, growing up, my dad did not speak English. We spoke Spanish at the house. And so when I would take him to the movies, I'd have to translate for him. And as you can imagine, being in a movie theater and I'm whispering to him, people are telling you to shut up. So I learned quickly that the only two kinds of movies that I could take my father to were action films and comedies, because those are the most visual stories. And that's what I love about cinema, that if you really have a great story and you can tell it visually, it doesn't matter what people are saying. That's the great thing about silent films. And if you look at the classic films that move us, the visual storytelling is what we, I think, grasp and relate and feel. You
Yeah,
know.
it's so true. I watched a movie called Intouchables, and it's in French, I
Oh
think.
yeah, great movie.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh my God, it's one of the best movies I've ever seen. And I was watching it thinking, oh, I'm reading the subtitles. And by the end of the movie,
mhm.
I completely forgot it wasn't in English.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it really proved to me that barrier that I had that said, oh, I don't really like reading subtitles, I have to leave the movie to watch it, that proved to me that that was a false idea appearing real. You know.
Yeah.
And we've got Elaine says, you are hilarious, Anaya. And Caroline says, you crack me up, Anaya. I love your chicken. And it would have set up just the right communication pathways. So this is, I mean, it might seem like, you know, what's that got to do with, but it's exactly what we're talking about, isn't it, Edgar?
Yeah.
How do we communicate with people in a way that connects our hearts?
That's right. And that's
Right?
it. That's right. The connection of the heart.
Yeah.
You know, I go back to Close Encounters of the Third Kind, the Spielberg film, right?
Oh,
Where
yes.
you have the visual elements, but it's the way that the aliens from another planet, the extraterrestrials, choose to communicate is through music, for notes. And that's it. You know, music is such an important pathway straight to our hearts, that you combine that with visuals, you have a visual communication, then you add music to that. I mean, that's what makes the soul sing, and the heart just goes with you. And that's what I love about cinema. And the
Oh,
Untouchables, I mean, think about those two characters. You know,
yes.
I recommend that movie to everyone watching. It's a beautiful French film. It was remade in America.
I never watched it. Did
I never
you?
watched the remake either, just because I love the original so
Yes.
much that I didn't want to, and that's not judging against the American version.
Oh,
But
absolutely not. It's just that when you love something so much,
yeah,
it's almost like, this is my moment
hmm
of connection with this movie. And the fact that it was in French, and I don't normally watch subtitled movies because I find some of those subtitles are very, very teeny, and I got to
yes,
get my glasses on and
right, right.
blah, 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 blah. But the thing that really knocked my socks off, Edgar, at the end of the movie, when I found out it's about real people, I've watched it twice so far.
Yeah, I've watched it a few times too. I saw it, I
So
think,
beautiful.
twice in the cinemas. I own it on Blu-ray. It's a special film.
Yeah.
It really is. And those two actors, I wish I could remember their names right now, but
Oh, same.
they're just amazing communicators,
Yeah,
because it was all.
absolutely.
If you look at the great thing about I love actors is that their craft, their tools, their face. It's the face and how they communicate, not with what they say, but through their instrument, and that is their body, their face, and these two actors were amazing with that.
They really were. They
Yeah.
were, for me, they stepped out of a movie and they just stepped straight into my heart.
Yes.
And I just loved my time with them.
Yep.
And I felt like not only had I enjoyed the story, etc., but what really happened for me was I felt like these people had touched me in a way that added something to my world.
That's right. And that's
Right?
that's the power of cinema. And that's what we want with our film Angel Lady.
Yes.
And
And that's what I'm so excited. I want
Yes.
to know about the music now. I can't wait to find out all of these aspects, because I can see, just talking to you, talking to Sherry, and I'm sure the other team you've gathered, because these, like souls attract like souls. I can feel that there is a very special energy running through this project, and whether or not people believe in angels, I can feel there's a whole big angel team behind it as well, bringing this energy to earth in a very important way at a very powerful time.
I also want to stress that yes, this film is about angel energy, but it's also about skepticism. We want to invite those who don't believe to watch this film, because it doesn't matter. It really is about the people that come together in your life, and that's real. I mean, there's nothing magical about that, except the circumstances that have to happen in order for you to meet this person. That's the miracle, that's the magic. But when you're face to face with a person that touches, that moves you, that inspires you, that's real. How you can come together, that's the miracle, because all sorts of things had to happen for that meeting to take place.
That's right. If
what
you think
happens
about when you meet someone, Edgar, and you think about how you came together, if you were 3 seconds earlier or later, and that's what I love, because you don't have to believe in anything like this. That's irrelevant. It's not necessary. It's not, that's not going to matter to your experience. What's going to matter to your experience is the heart and soul of this movie. The people.
The people, that's right. It's the relationships in our lives. That's what we really, comes down to in movies. The movies that really mean something to us isn't necessarily about the triumph of the individual character, which is part of it, but it's also the community that is around them, that supports them, that they build. I mean, one of my favorite Westerns is The Outlaw Josie Wales. And that whole movie is about these misfits coming together and creating this family. People forget about that inside this Clint Eastwood Western, it really is about a community coming together and forming a family. Same with the films that I referenced in the video you saw, with Places in the Heart. The wonderful film by Robert Benton with Sally Field, where she is a widowed woman in the Depression in Texas, and she has 2 little kids to care for, and she has a cotton field, and during the racism of that time, she finds help with an African American who knows how to grow cotton, and they form this family with another misfit, a blind person played by John Malkovich, that is kind of discarded by his family and thrown with hers. I mean, it really is about those misfits that come together and create this beautiful community. And that's what happens with our low self-esteem. Sometimes we connect with people that are like us, and we build that bond, and then we can create community that way. And that's one of the reasons why I love this story so much, because that's what happens with Ella and Danny, that they come to this Mexican American community that where she grew up, most likely, and again, this is all backstory, Mexicans were looked down upon, and yet here she is, she's being embraced by this community that her own community rejected growing up.
Yes, and there's so much in that, because I don't think it really matters, quite honestly, what kind of family we come from, how together we seem on the outside, to the outside world, or how, crazy we seem to the outside world. We all have the same needs. We all have the same hopes. And that is to be loved and accepted, to see love, care, and respect reflected back to us in the eyes of another. That's true. That's it, isn't it? Yeah, it's wonderful. And I can't wait to hear more. Yes.
Well, I was just going to add to that you're right. It is that the reflection of it and how we can achieve it, and it's taken me a long time to realize this, but it really comes down to helping others. It really does that. You take the attention away from yourself and you help others. That love is reflected back that way immediately, with that gratitude, and just knowing that you made a difference in another person's life. And that's gold.
That's absolute gold. My young grandson Bailey, who's about to turn 9, he's at that age now where there's no hugging, in public anymore. There's people around. No. And even at home, we've always been big huggers, and he's growing up and he's learning about being an individual, right? So I was with him the other day and he was doing his homework, and how you see people, they're jiggling their legs left, right, and center, and I'm watching his legs thinking, oh my God, he's not even 9, because it was a glass top table. And then I got it, Edgar. He's writing furiously and his writing's atrocious, and I got it in an instant. And I said, I finally got it, Bailey. I said, your brain goes so fast that your hand can't keep up. Yeah. And he just went, phew. His legs stopped jiggling. And it was an amazing thing from that one genuine observation, the difference. And then when I left, he threw his arms open. for a massive hug.
Oh, that's great.
Right?
Well,
So,
it's that thing when you
yeah,
see that person for who they are. I see you. Just that sentence alone, like I see you, I know who you are, and I'm acknowledging that. That's enough for people to embrace, for people to appreciate, just your
so
clarity
true.
and your observation. Because
Absolutely.
it's all beneath the surface. And when people can see beneath our surface, given the masks that we wear, the pretending that we do, and when they see you, I mean, it hits your soul.
It does.
Yeah.
And it changes.
Yeah.
It's not a momentary thing that stays in you
Mhm.
and will always be there forever.
Right.
And that's what's so beautiful about it. Now, Carol Ann says, Edgar, you
Mhm.
are an amazing guest.
Oh, thank
Your
you.
energy has blended so well with Anaya. Your caring and insight is a blessing for all. I would second that. You are fabulous. I love your energy. That 2-minute video I saw with you, which is on the page, Angel Lady Movie. You'll see it in the video section. It was just great. And I saw you and I thought, oh, I just want to talk to you. I want to share you. I want people to know how amazing you are, because that's your natural energy. You bring that to this film naturally. So therefore, it's already got that wonderful aspect to it. And Elaine says, thank you for your beautiful, caring heart, Edgar.
Oh, thank you. That's really sweet. That's
Mm.
great.
It's beautiful. This has just been so enjoyable, and I've just loved it. And I feel like I could talk to you for another hour. But let's get you back. Get you back with Sherry, as things progress. Bet you guys would love that, right? Yeah, as things are progressing. Hey, what's the scoop?
Absolutely.
Where you're at. That would be brilliant. But stay with me now, because we're going to have a chat with Sherry afterwards.
Okay.
But I want to thank you so much for everything you've shared with us today, Edgar. It's just been so wonderful.
My pleasure. My pleasure, Naya. Thank you for having me.
Great pleasure. And thank you, everyone. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I'm just so grateful to have spent this time with you. And as you go out into the world today, tonight, tomorrow, and next week, and forevermore, remember to be kind to you. Kindness is so powerful and so important. And the kinder you are to yourself, not only the more kindness will you receive from others, but the more you will model that for others in the world. Thanks, everyone. We love you. We care about you. And we look forward to so much more sharing. And yes, I can stop the live stream. Thanks, everyone. See you soon. Bye.
You've been listening to another fabulous program on Angel Heart Radio. Our goal is to remind you of how much you matter in the world, and to let you know that we appreciate who you are in the world. Angel Heart Radio programs are powerful tools. They are not intended, nor should they, be used to replace your medical or legal advice. The views and opinions expressed by Angel Heart Radio hosts, guests, co-hosts and associates should not be construed as advice from Angel Heart Radio.